This video discusses the Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle DLC content, featuring the extra Donkey Kong Adventure story mode and the extra challenges pack for the base game main campaign. If you're looking for a video on the base version of Kingdom Battle, click the card in the top right corner. That was last week's video. Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle quickly became one of my favourite little games on the Switch after my playthrough of last week's base game, and for the first time in a long time, I decided to treat myself to a game's DLC pass. Now let me quickly clarify, I own a base game physical copy of Kingdom Battle, but I am aware a digital gold edition is available via the eShop that has all the game's DLC baked into the initial purchase. So if you're thinking of getting Kingdom Battle digitally, get the gold edition so you're not paying extra. If you're like me, however, and you have the physical edition, the full set of this game's DLC will cost around €20. But was it worth it? Hi, I'm Billy S. Welcome to Billy's Backlog, the series in 2023 where I tackle my real-world backlog and attempt to make that dent we all dream about. Today we're continuing our Mario plus Rabbids stint with the first game's DLC content because I can't afford a fully priced game, so sparks of hope will have to wait. Let's tackle the DLC packs one at a time, starting with the cosmetic Pixel and Steampunk weapon packs. In the Pixel pack, each character gets a primary weapon made of pixels, and in the Steampunk pack, every character gets a secondary steampunk weapon. These weapons are designed for use in the early game of the main campaign, and outclass several of the starting equipment, making the base game's first world much more bearable. But as someone who completed the game already, I have zero use for these weapons as they can't help me in the late game. I wish Ubisoft had allowed players to reskin their weapons while keeping the stats of the gun they prefer. That way I'd be able to use the Pixel and Steampunk weapons viably. As it stands, I broke out the Pixel gun for Mario for a single challenge, and that was it. They're a novelty, but for $2.99 a pack, there's not enough utility there unless I want to start a new game in like 3 years. Next up is the Ultra Challenge Pack, which adds 8 new ultra hard challenges to the base game, which can be found inside of the 4 secret chapters of each world, or you can fast travel to the challenges via the washing machine. These challenges seem geared towards their specific world's difficulty, using enemies scaled to the worlds they appear in, so despite the moniker of extra hard, you may find the Ancient Garden challenges to be quite easy on an endgame file. My favourite challenges are ones that devolve into epic battles, allowing for different strategies and a wide use of characters to complete. Challenge S3-2 was perhaps my favourite, being a simple defeat this many enemies gauntlet, but using a fun map where you have to traverse to the opposite side and back again in your challenge. However, this challenge pack was mainly dominated by what I like to call one-turn challenges. These force the player to effectively solve a brain teaser, figuring out which units and what combination of moves will get you victory in a single turn. And these were fine enough in the base game since you often learn new tricks or utilized enemy patterns in fun ways, and that is still the case here. But the issue is that these challenges can be completed very quickly once you catch on to the solutions of the puzzles, and as such, that $6.99 you spent on this extra challenges pack suddenly feels a bit hollow. It's another case where I honestly wouldn't recommend purchasing the pack on its own. If you get the gold edition of the game, it's already included, and at that point, fair play. But none of the challenges blew my mind like this game's ultimate challenges did in the base game. A shame, really. Now, to be fair to the price, you also do get a new co-op campaign, which could reasonably justify the price if that's the type of content you enjoy, but as I mentioned in my last video, I don't have anyone to play co-op with currently, so I can't actually enjoy that content. So for me personally, that's 0 to 3 in terms of whether the DLC was worth it. Luckily though, we saved the best for last. The Donkey Kong Adventure DLC picks up the slack where the rest of the DLC drops the ball, and provides the player with an incredibly unique experience that is tailor-made for DK fans. The plot is pretty straightforward. Bowser Jr. and Spawny accidentally reactivate the time washing machine, causing Rabbid Kong and various other Rabbids to get sucked in, followed by Rabbid Peach looking for somewhere to charge her phone. #relatable. Beepo rushes in to help, and they're teleported between dimensions to the land of Donkey Kong. And all is not well, as Rabid Kong has taken over the islands, and with the help of DK and Rabid Cranky, Rabid Peach and Beepo must defeat him and repair the washing machine so they can return home. The story doesn't get any more complicated than that, but the character interactions between our primary cast carry the cutscenes in fantastic fashion. Rabid Kong and Rabid Peach have a straight-up enemies-to-lovers storyline, and I'm here for it. I'm trash. Sometimes all it takes is cartoon violence and a small bit of DK jealousy to get the job done. The way the Rabbids have gone from being the original archetype for the minions to becoming fairly beloved characters thanks to this crossover is genuinely spectacular. And while my 19-year-old ass would have scoffed at the idea of a character taking selfies being funny, 25-year-old me is happy to enjoy the hee-hee-hoo-hoo funny selfie diva scenes. But that's enough about the story. What about the gameplay? The team at Ubisoft originally didn't intend to create such a lengthy DLC, but after the genuine positive reaction from fans to Kingdom Battle, well, we got the Donkey Kong DLC we're playing today, and I am grateful because the creativity on display here is insane. You'd think being limited to 3 characters could be quite, well, limiting, especially compared to the base game's 8. But Donkey Kong and Rabid Cranky have extremely unique playstyles that complement the design of the DLC and each other, allowing for different types of challenges you just wouldn't get in the base game. Donkey Kong Adventure focuses on making the Kingdom Battle formula feel fresh and new with a Donkey Kong coat of paint, from the way everything has been reskinned to feel correct in Donkey Kong's world, to the way the characters play and interact with the environment, etc, etc. Pipes are now logs, coins are now bananas, skill orbs are now ancient runes. We've traded the insanity of the Mushroom Kingdom for jungles, beaches, and ancient temples, though you'll still see a few household objects strewn about for the Rabbids to screw around with in the background. I love that flavor text. There's a sense of verticality in this DLC that's not quite as present in the main game, and for our 2 new characters, this allows their new movesets to absolutely shine. DK is the star of the show, make no mistake. He's the tank of the group, able to climb walls and use special DK swing points to swing from location to location. He can still use logs, of course, but most of the time he'll be climbing over obstacles willy-nilly. His game-changing main ability is the power to pick up just about anything that isn't a metallic piece of cover. Breakable cover, hazard boxes, almost every enemy that isn't a mini-boss or a stage hazard, and even your allies. His range is genuinely terrifying, and his ability to manipulate most of the terrain to his favor is extremely empowering, especially when combined with Rabid Cranky's Grump Jump ability, which activates like a ground pound in the main game. Just better, but we will get there. DK's 2 main weapons are his Bananarang and his fists. His primary weapon, if you couldn't guess from the name, is a throwable banana boomerang, which can hit multiple enemies for a ton of damage. Being able to hit multiple targets that can be fairly spaced apart with your primary weapon without the need of a skill is something the base game could only dream of. The closest you get is Peach or Rabid Mario shotguns, but they require enemies to be lined up. Not so with DK's banana, and some of the strongest variants can target up to 5 enemies at a time. His fists are his secondary weapon, and they slam the ground repeatedly, doing high damage to anything around him. And if you combine this attack with his Bongo Attraction skill, you can rack up a ton of damage very quickly. His Bongo skill attracts enemies, and he can unlock a skill that allows the bongos to be played indefinitely until all the enemies in range have found their way towards him. And as said, combine that ability with either of DK's offensive options, and you have a recipe for disaster for your enemies. His other skill is a classic that all non-Rabbid characters possess, allowing him to ready up and attack any enemy moving within range, except more useful when you realize his attack still hits multiple enemies upon contact. Rabid Cranky, on the other hand, is a bit more of a glass cannon. He comes equipped with a cane shotgun and an explosive bomb. The bomb can be launched from any angle, providing great ranged fire from behind cover, while the shotgun combos extremely well with his Grump Jump that I alluded to earlier. If Cranky lands within a specific range of any enemies, he will always fire a freeze shot beneath him, doing damage and causing freeze to any enemies or friends caught within the blast. A high-level strategy is using DK's throw to throw Cranky into enemies to activate his Grump Jump, then using Cranky's movement to team jump off of DK again to activate a second round of Grump Jump. The damage can be insane with this method. Combined with his close-range shotgun and his Stink Eye skill that fires automatically at enemies moving within range, and you have a surprisingly powerful unit. His best utility though is his story ability, which allows Cranky to tell a story to any enemy units within range, causing them to fall asleep and miss a turn as long as they're not attacked after being put to sleep. The utility for this skill shows itself when you have missions where you need to stop a specific enemy from reaching a goal, or when you find yourself overly swarmed and need a quick getaway. Combining these two characters with Rabbid Peach, who plays like she does in the base game as the support healer, but with her 4 dashes and sentry, and she almost feels like a different character. Who knew that by tailoring an entire campaign around the movesets of these 3 characters, the one character you think you understand would feel so different? The battles themselves also have a different feel to them, with objectives varying from mini-chapter to mini-chapter. Sometimes you'll need to collect washing machine parts, maybe you'll need to destroy stocks of bad bananas, or stop a certain enemy type from reaching a goal. Nothing ever feels quite repetitive, and the DLC's length helps, being just long enough to be worth the asking price while not overstaying its welcome. There are 4 zones you'll be exploring, each with around 4 to 5 main battles, plus 12 extra challenges after you beat the main campaign, and 4 ultimate challenges after you beat those, similar to those at the end of the base game, which will test your knowledge of these characters to your limits. In each zone, there are also 5 collectible jigsaw puzzles to collect, with 20 to find overall, and if you collect all of them, you'll unlock some of the game's best weapons if you find them, weapons that give you a 100% chance to afflict their given status effects on enemies, something that is exceptionally useful in the ultimate challenges. There's also this mode's version of the museum and weapon lab, with a variety of chests to discover and a whole host of new exploration puzzles to solve. I hope you like colored buttons and slide puzzles, because once again, they do make up a majority of this game's puzzles. I can safely say I have now had my fill of these specific types of environmental puzzles. I really enjoyed them. I liked that in each zone you'd often have areas where there were multiple small paths which diverged from progression, like this little seaside village in the first zone, for example. I just don't want any more of those puzzles, I want something new. The world feels more fleshed out, but the chests feel easier to find than in the main game, which I actually prefer. Shout out to the DK barrels, by the way, you're used to get around in certain areas, as well as these special 3 secret minigames in the first 3 zones, which replace the pixel cannons from the main game, and provide the player with all the classic DK rails, minecarts, and underground caves you could want. The first 3 zones also have one larger puzzle, each which requires a bit more thinking to solve, with an extra requirement after beating the puzzle that unlocks those secret minigame levels I just mentioned. I love them all, and they represent the types of puzzles I'd love to see more of if they are to return in Sparks of Hope. Grant Kirkhope once again comes in with another stellar soundtrack, and given his previous affiliations with Rare, I can imagine it was quite the feeling to once again work with the DK IP. The reimaginations of classic Donkey Kong themes are sure to please longtime fans, but for my money, the best part of the music wasn't the tracks themselves, but how the music is made diegetic, as the various gulls and birds around the island actually sing the tracks themselves. It's relaxing and wholesome, and just the vibe I wanted for this crazy tropical vacation. But this DLC isn't without a few flaws. The last zone of the DLC, within the ancient temple, felt a bit rough compared to what came before it. First of all, my game actually crashed while within Chapter 4-1's battle. A real shame, as up to this point, I haven't had any issues on that front. The stage hazards for the temple, while easily my favorite of the DLC, felt like they didn't quite get enough use. I wish there was one extra level combining them all, because I love the idea of the idols and the flamethrowers, but those battles were over so quickly for me I didn't get to enjoy them that much. Perhaps worst of all though was the final boss. Everything in this DLC was leading up to a battle with Rabbids Kong, and at the end of Zone 3, you think you're getting it, but that battle ends prematurely, leading into Zone 4, the Temple, and by the time you make it through, you really are desperate to end things with Rabbids Kong once and for all. The setup is gorgeous, with the dramatic oceanside setting, the waves crashing against the shore, and Rabbids Kong feeling like a genuine threat as he sets up to fight you. And then the fight starts. It's a completely flat map with 0 DK swing points or verticality to speak of, meaning a majority of the fun tools you've been investing in this whole time are useless. Rabbids Kong has a 100% chance to push your characters away with each attack, even behind cover, so positioning means absolutely nothing. And in a battle where halfway through you're forced to reach 3 separate points on the map to unlock the golden barrel at the start in just 6 turns for the perfect score, that's a tough order. The music choice here was also disappointing through its implementation, as rather than have the music play across the whole battle, it only starts up during the enemy turn, then goes away when it's the player's turn. I understand they wanted to give the fight a specific atmosphere, but when a majority of players are just going to fast forward through the enemy's turn, the music basically starts and stops immediately. A baffling design decision that I just can't get behind. I wanted an epic DK remix track to defeat Rabbids Kong to, and I didn't get that. And to add the cherry on top, you don't even get to use your weapons on Rabbids Kong after the first few turns. He powers up, becomes invincible, you unlock the aforementioned golden barrel by standing on 3 points, you get someone to the start of the map, and then you beat him in a cutscene. Really? F***ing really? It's such an unsatisfying way to end the story, since the joy of these games comes from upgrading your gear and doing massive damage. I just wanted to see big numbers on screen, is that so much to ask? Luckily, we do get a chance to really test our mettle with the post-game challenges, but for people who just want to see the story, it's quite the anticlimax. I wish the battle with Rabbids Kong had maybe concluded in Zone 3, the jungle, with Zone 4, the temple, being something else. Maybe they beat Rabbids Kong, but a washing machine part falls into the temple and they have to defeat an ancient Rabbid Guardian as the final boss. Or the washing machine part gains sentience and refuses to go back, so they have to beat it up. Or, you know, just make the final Rabbids Kong fight include what made this DLC so much fun, which were the movement tools, verticality, and DK's throw mechanics. Ah well, nothing is perfect, it doesn't ruin my experience. Donkey Kong's Adventure is a worthwhile addition to the Mario plus Rabbids formula, and if you enjoyed the base game, you will love this too. But I urge anybody on the fence about Mario plus Rabbids, please get the Gold Edition. Save yourself the hassle of determining if the DLC is worth it by having it in the base game. The entire package is so worth the effort. As for me, while I do think I paid a little bit too much for what this whole DLC, DK Adventure, the extra challenges and the weapon packs was worth, I don't regret it. I had fun, and I'm gonna be a little sad to say goodbye to Kingdom Battle, at least until I get the chance to try Sparks of Hope, maybe this year? Thank you everyone for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. All my social links are on screen now and in the description. A massive thank you to all my Patreon supporters, you keep this channel alive, and I'll see you all next week when we take a look at Super Mario Sunshine. Bye bye.